In this segment, we're going to talk about basic Java commands in Google Earth Engine. Let's get right to it. So as you can see, I have an example of Java scripting here for you to try it out. And as I go along, I will mention key points in Java scripting using this script. The first one I want to mention is the use of semicolon. And this is by using on line 5, where you see there. This is how you can end a script. And the use of semicolon marks the end of every single line in a script. And you see that repeating on line 5 and various other times down below. The other important use is the use of quotation marks. As you can see on line 8 there, this is where you can see the use of quotation. In Google Earth Engine, single quotation and double quotation can be used interchangeably. And quotation marks generally marks the beginning and end of a text string. In this example I have, GE is awesome as a text string. The third one I want to mention is comments. Comments is a very important part of scripting in any kind of language, whether it's Java or R or Python. Comments can give the person who uses your script next, or whoever read your script as a background information, or give them the ability to read your script more intuitively. To my personal preference is to comment everything down to the teeth, as it might be annoying, but it is definitely helpful when you're sharing your script, so that other people are not constantly asking you, why did you do so on and so forth here? Or why did you script at all? In Google Earth Engine, if we look at the example again, scripting has 3 different approaches when you are trying to comment. The first is use of //. So on this line 8, for example, you're seeing // that marks that line is commented. And the other way you can comment is by using a / and star. So on line 42 to 49, this is where I am showing you an example of commenting a whole section of texts or line. And this is very useful if you want to comment out a whole section of texts or scripts that you just wrote. So you don't have to go to every single line and comment out every single lines of code. The third way is my personal favorite, is using keyboard shortcut. So without even typing out / or stars, you can be able to comment out a line very easily. This is done by doing a command or control, depends on your operating system, and the /. Let's try it on the earlier lines that I have, which is on line 5. On line 5, if we want to comment out that line, we can simply just highlight it. So put the cursor on that line and then hold down Control or command, or click /. And this will give you the ability to comment and uncomment a line. And similarly, you can highlight a whole section of code. So here, if I want to comment out or uncomment lines 7 to 11, you can just use the same thing. After you highlight, hold Control Command, hit /, and now you have uncomment those lines. So just in quick summary, the three important points of Java scripting is the use of semicolon at the end of every script, and also the use of quotation marks, and whether it's double quotation or single quotation, it doesn't really matter. And then the third really important point is to comment your script, as it will be useful for yourself to read, but also other people who want to read it later. Next, I'm going to show you the examples, very simple examples of different Java scripting inside Google Earth Engine, with some examples that I came up with. So if we come back to the script, I'm going to just explain from top to bottom, point by point here. In Google Earth Engine, you can store variables, and you can store various types of values inside of that variable. Here on line 5, that is a very simple way of store variables. The use of var signals that I am constructing a variable, and the name of that variable is my grade. And the equal sign assigns whatever value going to be in my grade. Here I put as 100. And just to repeat myself again, never forget that semicolon in the back of your script. The next example on line 8 is another way of storing values in a variable. Here the variable is called opinion, and the value that I want to store inside of that variable is called GEE is awesome. Here, as I mentioned before, I use the double quotation marks to mark that entire GEE is awesome as one text string. The next example, let's do something a little bit more interactive. The print function is the foundational piece of any coding environment to show your results. And this print, you might be asking me, where does it print to? Well, it prints into the console tab to the right. So if I run this script real quick, in the console, now you will be able to see there is a string that has been printed. And this is what I have initially given it to print out. So that is the function of print. The next example on line 14 to 15 is an example of another kind of variable. This is called a list. Let me just uncomment this real quick. In a list, the use of brackets is in play here. So now you are seeing there are 3 different types of variables that I put in. Those are the eggplant, apple, and wheat. Those are separate text strings. And within that, you use the comma to differentiate different variables, as well as the brackets to enclose and tell the Google Earth Engine I am trying to establish a list. And the name of this list, we assign it as my list. A list is very helpful if you want to combine a factor or a variety of different variables into one. And the way to extract values out of a list, as I show here inside the print function, is by using brackets. Since I have constructed my list up above using eggplant, apple, and wheat, I am asking the my list what is the first value inside that list. And the reason why I use 0 is because everything that has a list stored inside Google Earth Engine starts with a 0. And this is different from other coding environments because it does not start with a 1. It might not be intuitive, but it's something that you will want to keep in mind when you code through. So if we run this, it should be tell us the first item in my list. So let's see how that goes. If I run it. In the console tab, now you are seeing the eggplant, which is the first item in our list. Now moving on to the next example, on line 18. This is another type of variable that we are showing here. This is called dictionaries. The difference between dictionaries and lists is that dictionaries can store names for each of the variables. For lists, you can only number them from 0 to however number you want it to be. But dictionary change those numbers into names that you want it to be. So let me comment out and I will quickly go over what this looks like. Oops. So as you can see there on line 20, this is how basically a dictionary is constructed. The use of curly bracket marks the starting of construction of a dictionary. Inside the dictionary, you can use columns, and those will be able to help you to name a variable. So in this example, we are storing the variables bread, red, and 42. And for each of those variables, we assign them with a unique name with food, color, and number. And in order to separate them, again, we use similar to lists, we use the comma to separate them out. And once you finish that, you can use the variable to signal I am constructing a variable as well as the name of the dictionary. So here I use my dictionary as the name of the dictionary. Now, in order to extract values out of the dictionary, we can simply use two different approaches to accomplish the same goal. On line 23 and on line 26 is how we can extract the variable by name. And here we are simply just extracting one value out of the dictionary. Since we previously named the variable red as color, we can ask this dictionary any variable that has the name color in it. And this, on line 23, I use the example of brackets inside this print function. And if you are trying to save space or just being lazy in coding, there's another way to do that, which is using this dot without using the brackets as shown on 23. And if we run this, we should be able to see what is called the name color. So as you see in the console there, the two red indicates what is the variable named color that I asked earlier. So next, we are going to talk about the mathematical operations. With any kind of coding, mathematical operation is very important, and so is here in Google Earth Engine. And the mathematical operation example I'm showing you is on line 29 to line 39. The actual mathematical computation happens on line 33 and line 36. These two are this different approach, but trying to accomplish the same goal. With any mathematical operation in Google Earth Engine, you can write out the exact operation you wanted to do. So on line 33, I wrote out subtract. But similar to that, you can do the actual symbol of subtract, which I did on line 36. And those are the same approach to do that in order to compute any mathematical operations. On line 39, I simply did another example of mathematical operation. But here I wanted to show you just an additional example or additional piece of knowledge that we will want to have. And this is very similar to commenting that you would always want to add a label to your result. Inside of this print function, you have the text string, which is called subtracting 2 from 3 equals. That is the label of the result that I'm trying to get. And the operation I'm doing is 3 minus 2. So technically, we should be able to see a print of 1, also with the label of that 1, what I did in order to get that 1. The reason why we need to label our results is because if you have a lot of results going on in your console, this is going to help you find your result quickly. So if I run this right now, in the console, you will be able to see the results that it's showing. The 298 indicates the mathematical operations were successful, and that was generated from 100 minus 2. And the other result down below, as you can see, is the named result for the 3 minus 2. And that is the example you're seeing there, subtracting 2 from 3 equals to 1. So there you have it. That is the mathematical operations for Google Earth Engine. And then you can do various other types of mathematical operations inside of it. And if you're not familiar with the function, you can always use the dictionary and under the Documents tab. The other example I want to mention, which is the last example, is the use of functions. The use of function is very important, again, in any kind of coding environments. And function is especially helpful if you are trying to repeat your process over various data sets. And instead of copy-pasting your code of operations, you can just construct a function. So let's see what the example looks like. So the example is shown on 51 to 56. Let me just comment it out real quick. And you can see a basic example of how a function can be constructed on 51. First, you start with the variable and the name of the function. Then you write out the function text with the parentheses that has the input in it. And then in the curly brackets, those are what you can do with the function itself. So here's just showing you an example. The function will take in whatever the string that I give it and return the value of hello combined with the string that I give it and also the exclamation mark. So I use this function and put in world, and technically it should give me hello world. Same concept goes for the mathematical operations as well. You can take a variable that's called a and make some kind of operation such as a plus 3, and technically this function should give you whatever the value it will generate for a plus 3. So if we run this real quick, now you'll be able to see in the console what the results comes out to be. So first you're seeing hello world. We input the value world, and now it's generating as hello world. And then the second one is we input the value of a as 1. So 1 plus 3 is 4. And this is just a very quick example of function. So in summary, this is introducing you to the basic of Java scripting. And of course, there are other resources you can look up for that on the Google Earth Engine website. And that's all for this segment. And I hope to see you in the next video.